Hi FlossTube, I'm Misty Purcell. I'm the designer behind Luminous Fiber Arts. I'm excited to be with you today to talk to you about my new design, Farm Fresh Eggs. I'm releasing that at Nashville Needlework Market. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how I came up with the design and my ideas for displaying it. And then I'd like to take you through a tutorial on how to finish the eggs into ornaments. So let's talk about the design. This is it. And when I found out that I was going to Nashville, I spent November frantically designing something to take with me. And I actually came up with 3 designs. They all have chickens doing different things, but this was the one that made the cut. This was the design that was farthest along in the process and that I had the clearest idea for how I wanted it to go. Initially, I started with the idea of the farm fresh eggs, and I had the idea that maybe I would have a rooster and a hen, and I wasn't sure, maybe a barn in here. I was debating. As it came together, I was trying to figure out where will the eggs go in the sign because I wanted them in the sign. And then it occurred to me, well, I could make ornaments for the eggs instead of having them as part of the Farm Fresh Eggs sign. So I started sketching some ideas and tried to incorporate elements in the eggs that were also up here in the sign so that everything coordinates. You can display them separately, but they go together. And I really had fun coming up with this piece, and I really enjoyed stitching it. And the eggs, I designed them so that I could have the chicks facing each other, and that's how I've displayed them. So this actually isn't the display I initially had in mind when I was planning this design out. I'm going to save that idea for later, so I'm not going to tell you what my idea was, but my idea didn't work. So I went to Hobby Lobby and was looking around, and I already had an idea that I might use this piece. So this brown wood frame is a clip frame from Hobby Lobby, a collage clip frame. I've turned it sideways and taken off all the clips. It comes with twine and clothespins, and I've removed all of that. And I used, I laid everything flat. So I laid the frame flat and put everything on top where I thought it should go visually, spatially, what looked good to me. And I drilled pilot holes, and for the frame, I used wood screws. These are 3/4 inch wood screws to hang the frame on here. And then for the ornaments, I used these black cut tacks. These are 13/16 long, and I just used a couple knocks with the hammer to push them in. This wood is really soft, so it doesn't take much. And so that's how I'm displaying everything. So let's talk a little bit about how to finish these eggs into ornaments. I'm going to walk you through the process. And oh, I should say that the this frame, the item number is listed on the pattern. So if you're looking for the same way to display it, that's included in your pattern, and you can find it at Hobby Lobby. Alrighty, let's give this a go. So this is our cute little chickie that we're gonna make. And I'm gonna walk you through the process of making this chick. Please keep in mind, I've never made a tutorial before. I'm still figuring out the equipment. Hopefully it's not too awful. Thanks for bearing with me. All right, so the first thing, before I start anything, I just want to say, I would know nothing about finishing, hardly, if it weren't for Vonna Pfeiffer. So first, a huge thank you to Vonna the Twisted Stitcher. Second, this wouldn't be possible without Vonna, so this tutorial is really thanks to Vonna. And if I do something that Vonna would never do, it's not Vonna's fault, it's just me, okay? That's my thank you / disclaimer for today. So this is the back of your pattern, okay? The first thing you're gonna do, and this is explained in the pattern, there's 2 pages of instructions, but I'm walking you through this. You need to print out, if you bought a PDF, you need to print out the pattern, 2 copies. If you purchase the print version of the pattern, you should make 2 copies of your pattern. If you're stitching on a count that isn't 32 count or 16 count, then you're probably going to want to resize your template, either enlarge or shrink depending on your count. Okay, so if you bought the PDF, you need to check first that your printer has printed this out to the full size and has not scaled it down or fitted it in some way. And obviously you can check your print settings to make sure that that doesn't happen, but it's good to check. So if you're a quilter, you probably have a quilting ruler. You can just use tape measure, whatever you got, and we're good here. So you're going to cut 2 templates, so that's why you need 2 copies. You're going to cut fabric, a fabric template, and a mat board template. So let me show you what those look like when you're done. Here is the, okay, there we go, mat board template. And for the fabric template, I like to cut the inside where the egg would go out. And that way I can position it over the piece and figure out where to trace around it. So step 1, get 2 copies of the back page of your pattern with the template, and one is your mat board template that you cut out, the other is your fabric template. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2 is to actually make yourself a template, or excuse me, step 2 is to trace your egg template onto your mat board. So for every egg, you need to have two eggs traced on a mat board. You need 2 pieces of egg-shaped mat board per ornament. This is 4-ply mat board, which I purchased from Amazon. It's acid-free. And that's what I'll be using to mount this design on. So I just use scissors. I use regular pencil to trace this. And I'm just going to use scissors to cut this out. I find that it is easier if I give myself as much room to cut around this as possible. So I tend to cut the mat board down a bit and then cut out. So that's what I'm doing. You can fit on an 8x10 piece of mat board, you can fit six of these eggs. So if you're going to do all 4 ornaments, you'll need 2 pieces of mat board this size. And you just need to cut slowly around the outside of the egg. Hope you've got something else to do, like stitch, while I'm cutting this out. It's pretty exciting. Sometimes I just cut off the edge to give myself a little more room. If when you're done the edges look a little too bumpy to you, you could try using a nail file to smooth these around. I learned that trick from quilting and making applique shapes when making templates out of mylar plastic. I think it was mylar. Oop. Okay, that's pretty good. I got a little off there. This can be the back, the egg back. Now I'm going to cut the other shape. Again, I'm just rough cutting. So one of these pieces will be your front that your stitching is mounted on, and the other piece will be the back that your backing fabric is mounted on. I'll be using glue throughout this process. If you're not comfortable using glue, you're certainly welcome to lace and sew. If you'd rather use sticky board, go for it. This is just me telling you what I do, and I'm not saying that you need to do it the way that I am doing it. I'm just helping you know what I did to complete this process. And also, hopefully I'm taking some of the stress out of finishing, because I know that we put all this time into these stitched pieces and then we're scared we're going to ruin them. And sometimes just watching someone else do the thing you need to do makes it feel less intimidating. All right, let's see what the next step is going to be. We are going to use some glue, and we're going to put glue on one of these eggs and then glue batting to that egg. So there's going to be an egg front that has batting and an egg back that does not have batting. If you want both sides to have batting, that's fine. I'm just doing batting on the front behind the stitching. So Vonna showed in one of her videos, I believe, using the Aleene's tacky spray. So for this step, that's what I use. And it's always advisable to use some paper below the things that you're going to be gluing so that you don't make a mess. And I'm doing all 4 ornaments. Can you tell I've done this before? Can you see the outlines of the eggs? This is an extra set. So you're going to shake it. It does stink. So if you're really sensitive to smells, and I'm pretty sensitive, but I'm okay. But you just want to be aware that it does smell. Maybe have your windows open if you can. Okay. So those are just going to dry briefly. They're sticking to me. And now we're going to put the batting down and put the eggs on. This was another trick I learned from watching Vonna. Saves some time rather than tracing your batting. That extra step you can just use. Okay, I think I'm using this end. You can just use the eggs. So position them over your batting. It honestly doesn't matter what batting you use. Okay, glue side down onto the batting. Okay, and then you're just using these as the template to cut them out. Okay, so let's cut these. I believe what I have is a warm and natural white batting, but as I said, it's not super important which batting you use. Again, this is going to be the front of the egg. The stitching will cover the batting. I find that cutting out the egg shapes from the mat board can be hard on your hands. If you're going to do like 8 shapes, I would space it out and just cut out a few at a time, come back and do some more later, just so it doesn't bother your hands so much, if it bothers your hands. I really encourage you to check out Vonna's tutorials. They're so good. She's got some on her blog and she's got videos. And I can remember back when there weren't really tutorials around for cross stitch finishing, and you know, I had a lot of stuff that I didn't know what I was going to do with it or how I was going to finish it. So it's nice that we have so many resources and that Vonna has taken the time to teach us so much. And many other people are also making tutorial videos, and it's just really nice that people share that way. What I'm showing you in this tutorial is also the way that I finish other rounded shapes, such as circles and ovals. So if you're doing other kinds of ornaments, other rounded shaped ornaments, you can use these steps to complete them. I really am kind of addicted to the round and oval shaped Christmas ornaments lately. So I think you might be seeing something rounded from me for Christmas sometime in the not so distant future. All right, these are the egg fronts, the mat board egg fronts. We've got all 4 of them. Okay, ironing. I already did it. I didn't think you'd want to watch me iron. It's not that exciting. But what you need to do, I use a steam iron. You need to iron your backing fabric. This was mine. Okay. You need to press all of your stitched pieces. I have an ironing board and I fold up a towel on it, face down. Okay. Press. And you also want to iron your rickrack. This design uses Country Rust from Lady Creates, and you'll see, you know, it comes wound up in a package and it's a little bit foldy. You just take a steam iron, run it along it, get it nice and flat. Okay, so let's get the ironing all done. We're gonna cut out our stitched pieces from the fabric. I've already done that with 3 of them, and I'm just gonna walk you through the 4th one. So you're gonna take your fabric template and position it over your stitching and center it. Okay, so the reason I like to cut out the center is so that I can see what it would take to center it and then trace around it. I used the Clover. Okay, this is a water-soluble marker. It's a fine-tipped marker. You can use whatever works for you. This is just what I chose to use. And trace around it, and then cut it out. These eggs were stitched on Snow Day, which is a fabric that I dye. I was all out of the dapple from Picture This Plus, which is what I used for the models. So I used some of my own fabric, and Picture This Plus has really nice fabric. When I was preparing for market, I couldn't dye all the fabric for all the models and then have it ready for you guys. So I went with some Picture This Plus fabrics, and dapple was one that I really liked. Okay. Got your egg front cut out. Cut out the backing fabric, same process. So you lay your fabric down, position your fabric template wherever you want it. I tried to center it on the inside so that it looked good. And then trace around the outside and cut it out, just like you did with the chick. This is an old reproduction print that I had in my stash. I've been a quilter for a while. I can tell you it's from Moda. I can't tell you what it is because it doesn't have anything on the selvage. But anything cute will work. All right, we're moving along pretty quickly here. We're going to start assembling the egg. So I suggest that you put your stitched piece face down and And then you're going to put your mat board egg front face down so that the batting is touching the back of your piece. And then I like to hold it up to the light and try to see through, I can't show you that way, try to see through it to see where I need to position the mat board. So I'm going to do that now, and I can't really show you that because I can't see. You want to leave enough room at the top and bottom. That's where it's closest to the edge, I would say, the piece. So you want to pay a special attention to the top and bottom. And you also want to be careful not to stretch this too tightly as you're positioning it. I think it tends to distort a bit when you do. So that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and get it ready to be glued. So I always have handy, like Vonna recommends, a damp towel to wipe glue off my fingers. I'm going to use the Aleene's tacky glue. And I'm going to make a line of glue. Hopefully this is going to come out. Yep. I'm going to make a line of glue around the outside edge of the fabric. Or excuse me, around the outside edge of the mat board. It's been a long day. I was teaching before this, so my brain's kind of iffy, but hopefully not so iffy that we're going to have problems today. So I like to push the bottom into the glue and the top into the glue, and then check to see if that looks good. I'm going to clean my fingers off. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I'll keep going. So this process, like I said, applies to any rounded shape. The reason I like the glue, and it's not that you can't do this with lacing, but I like that I can get it like pretty smooth around the curves. I know you're probably having a little trouble seeing what I'm doing. My fingers are probably in the way, and I'm sorry. But I'm just smoothing it. I'm just pulling it and smoothing it, and I'll show it up close in a second when I get done. When you get to the top, you can kind of undo what you did and just smooth this out. Sometimes it doesn't matter if it's smooth or not around the edges, but I think on this, where there's not so much of a cover up from your trim, to me it matters a bit more, but that's just my personal preference. Maybe I can turn it this way and you can see it better. Though that's harder to do. Nah, we're gonna have to go with this, I'm sorry. Looks like I may have pulled a little bit more to one side than the other because I don't have as much fabric here, so I'll have to check that. Yeah, I think I did. So you just undo it. You may need to add a little more glue. Try not to get glue on your stuff. Use your rag. Don't sweat it. Yeah. I do need more glue. I just keep my glue open, and I have a piece of paper. Just lay it on the paper, and then it can drain if it wants to, and it's not a big deal. Sorry, my table squeaks when I lean against it. I should try to be aware of that. can probably hear lots of noise. Okay. Let's see, how is that looking? Sometimes you can just kind of shift things on the front and have it look good. Sometimes you have to redo it. I think that's pretty good. Looks pretty centered. But, you know, if you feel like it's not quite centered, you just fix it. So on the back, you know, there's a little bit of ridges, but I'm trying to keep the ridges away from the edge so that it looks smooth here. Okay, awesome. One done. Next, same thing with the backing fabric that I did with the batting. You can use regular glue here, the tacky glue, or you can use the spray glue if you want. You're going to take your mat board egg backs, and it doesn't matter which side you use. If one side looks better to you than another, put that side up. But I'm going to use the spray glue for this, and then I'm going to use the tacky glue to adhere it to the other side. Okay. You want to have some distance, don't get too close. And you also want these to be tacky because you don't want, this is something I learned from Vonna, you don't want your glue to spot your fabric, because if there's clumps of glue, or it's not completely dry, you can have spots on your fabric. I had that happen once with a quilt that I was making, and I used a spray-based early on in my quilting career to layer the batting and the other layers of the quilt. And I don't think you could see it on the front. I don't think I used it on the front, but on the back, I don't remember if it washed out or not. You can touch it and see that it's tacky but dry. And then lay your backing pieces face down on your mat or your table. And then put the glue side down on them and try to center it as best you can. Especially if you've got a pattern, but then again, it's the back, so who cares? I mean, I care, but not as much as I care about the front. You can, I mean, this is just a, it's not like a permanent glue, so if you need to reposition, you can. I think the biggest thing with finishing stuff is the more you do it, the less intimidating it becomes. So if you're really nervous and you're thinking, oh my God, I might ruin this, then you can always just take like a piece of stitching fabric and test it out. Like, don't stitch on it and do this process and see how it goes. And then hopefully that'll give you the confidence to do it. Okay, let's glue these on to this side now. This is, again, this is the back of your egg. Just gonna draw a line of glue around the outside edge using the tacky glue. I'll just do it for all of them. Oops, and go right off the fabric. Why not? All right. We're gonna press these edges over. This one I did not center real well. Oh well, it is what it is. I'm not fixing it. I've already stitched these once. That's good enough, right? This is round 2. I can be a little lazier in round 2, right? So same process as the egg front, you're just pushing this and rounding it out, smoothing the edges into the glue. Hopefully you can kind of see what I'm doing, that I'm not covering things up too much. Yeah, I know it's hard to see. I can tell from this vantage point. Boy, I really didn't center that well. Okay, wipe off glue. Doesn't look as bad as I thought it would. So that's one. I'm going to keep doing the rest of them. So now we're going to cut our rickrack, and you want an 11-inch piece. Okay, so 11 inches. I like to cut the rickrack in the middle, like not here or like diagonally or anything like that, but right in the middle of a hump. Doesn't matter really which way, because you can move it around. And you're going to cut an 11-inch piece, which is what it tells you in the instructions to do. So I'm just lining this up. You can't see. I'll put it up here so you can see better. I'm lining this up on my cutting mat where 11 inches would be. And I'm centering it so that I'm going to cut right on the hump again, and then I'm ready for the next one as well. And I didn't prepare by cutting these first, which I should have done. Guess I'll do them now real quick. Now, if you're doing a different sized count, you may need to use a different amount of rickrack, a little bit more, a little bit less. Depending on your count. So if you're doing 4 eggs, you need 4 pieces of rickrack. Okay, so now we're going to adhere this to the egg front. I'll explain the reason shortly. So get your egg front, your mat board egg front with your stitch piece, lay it down, face down. I'm going to try to get the scallop kind of centered around the top of the egg. Like that. And I'm doing the rickrack to the front of the piece so that if I get some glue on the back of the rickrack, it doesn't matter because that'll be facing back. Whereas if I put this rickrack on the back piece, you could end up seeing the glue on the front. You're just trying to be consistent about how much of the scallop edge is sticking out from your ornament. Oops. Need some glue. So I'll just tuck that down a little bit more. And that's pretty well hidden. So now we can cut off this extra bit. It stuck to me. Okay. Rickrack. All good. Just like that. Okay, now we're going to put a bow on your piece. Okay, I'm going to walk you through it. I'm not great at making bows. You should really look at Vonna's tutorial. But I'll walk you through it anyway as best I can. So you're going to cut a piece of ribbon, if you're going to make your own bow, that is. You're going to cut a piece of ribbon that's 9 inches long. I used this ribbon from Hobby Lobby. And that's listed on the pattern as well. It's a gingham. It's cream and red. Or maybe it's ivory. Ivory and red, I think they say. So 9-inch piece of ribbon is what I used for the bow. And what I do is I fold it in half like that. And then press this part down. Oh wait, I fold it in half like that, excuse me. Okay, like that. Then I can press this part onto here and get a sense for how even everything is if I need to adjust. And I recommend making all the bows at once. It just makes it easier, I think, once you get in a groove and you get a bow that you like. So I've already made 3 of the bows, and I just want to try to get this one to be close. I'll link Vonna's tutorial for making bows because I think hers are better than anything I could do. But I'm talking you through it anyway. Okay, so you want to already have made a knot in the end of your thread that you're going to sew this bow up with. I use a quilter's knot. You can use whatever knot you want, but you're taking your thread and you're going to come up through the bow. In the center. And I kind of do like a running stitch. Make sure, again, that you're staying in the center. Double check that. Okay, I really didn't do a running stitch there, but you get the idea. Okay, and then I'm going back down at the top of the bow. And then pull tight. And I think Vonna recommends wrapping around like 3 times, 2 times. Check to see. It's not amazing. Let's try again. Okay, so fold the bow, fold your ribbon like that. Like a remembrance ribbon, basically. Okay, push the loop down and then adjust. Just think it's a little easier for me personally to tell if it's even if I do it that way. That's pretty good, I think. That's better. Yeah, bow making, not my forte, but I can do it. And if I can do it, you can do it. That's the comforting thing. When someone else can do something that seems hard, that means that you can do it. And even though I'm not great at making bows, somehow I end up with bows. Right? So there you go. So then on the back, Vonna has you, if I remember correctly, I haven't watched this tutorial in a while, but this is how I do it, and I'm sure that this is close to what she does, but if she doesn't, it's not her fault. You're gonna go under the wraps, and then you leave a loop, and you go through the loop a couple of times, just to make a knot, pull it tight. Okay, that's better. I leave the tail on because we're gonna sew it onto the egg. So the next thing I do is I get a small pair of scissors. I like to clip the triangles out of the ends. So I fold the bow in half, also to make sure that the ends are the same. And I don't do symmetry well, so I can't like look at these and clip them separately. So I fold them in half so that they're on top of each other and clip them simultaneously, because I don't do symmetry well. Got one little strand hanging on, and that, let me fix this. Okay. Hey, that's not bad. Alrighty. Can you see? Okay. I'll put these away because I will add them later. So we're gonna sew this bow. I like to sew it through the rickrack on the front. If you want to glue it, you can glue it. I have it in my head, and this could be wrong, but I have it in my head that you get a flatter, or excuse me, that it could glue on more flat than I would want it. I kind of like to be able to position it, reposition it. So I kind of like it to be puffy. And if I want to take it off, I can just snip the threads and take it off. So this is what I do. I just sew through the rickrack. Try to position it centered over the little flower at the top, because that's the center. And then I'm looking at, hopefully you can see that, the rickrack, and I'm gonna just sew right through it. Okay. Come back through. You know, if this is too torturous, don't do it. This is what I do. And then I'm going to go through back around the wraps and the bow to attach the bow to the rickrack. Go back through the same spot I just sewed. If I can find it. And do this a few times, repeat a few times. Grab it under the wraps on the back of your bow again. Okay, so this is going to be our last time doing this. Okay, so now I'm going to knot it off on the back. Then I can tweak things. And I'm just going to run my needle under the threads on the back a couple times. The thread's a little short. Okay. Let's pull this through to knot it. Okay, I think that should be enough. Now we're gonna glue our hanger to the back piece. You're gonna cut I believe it's a 5-inch. Yes, a 5-inch piece of ribbon for your hanger. You're going to put some glue at the top. Now, one thing to know, depending on how you want to display these, the wider you make this part, like that, the flatter your ornaments will hang. And the closer this part is, the more it's going to turn to the side. So it's just something to think about. It may not look quite, I don't know, as appealing to you initially, but you can see this one, I mean, it doesn't look super wide, but it's not really narrow. And this hangs straight when I hang it. So it's just a tip. So I'm just laying this in the glue, and you've got to put a little dab here between these guys. And then you want to check that you've got it hanging, you know, in the center, like it looks centered. If it doesn't, reposition. So mine did not look centered. Try again. And then if you get it tacked in pretty well, you can just kind of hang it on your finger to check that it looks okay. You can't really see that, but that's what I'm doing. And as long as it does, then you're good. Okay, now let's put glue and glue these two together. And I'm going to put just a little bit in the center as well. Okay. So lay your stitched piece as best you can. Try to center it, but you obviously, it's kind of covered up by your rickrack, so you're going to have to just eyeball it a bit on top. Now, turn it to the side, and you can see better that you need to reposition this. Or, well, I do. I need to reposition. That looks pretty good. Okay. That is that, you guys. You made it through. We all made it through this. No eggs were harmed in the making of this video. And as they say in French, voila. There it is. So now you're going to get some heavy books. Sometimes I like to put a towel over the stitching just to protect it, like that. Stack of books on top, let it dry for a little bit, and Bob's your uncle. Thank you so much for watching and for, you know, getting through my first tutorial with me. I hope it was helpful to you, and I hope you go on to make many awesome ornaments. I'd love to see your egg ornaments. Please let me know if you make them. And if this tutorial helps you make other ornaments too, that's great. That's the hope, is that you'll be empowered to make things. So thank you so much, and I will see you soon. Take care.